Hi everybody, Raynolf here with your Mercury Retrograde Transit Guide. So Mercury's going retrograde. It's retrograde right now on the 13th of October, and it's going to continue until November 3rd. So I'm going to go over mostly what this is going to mean on a personal level for each of y'all. So when Mercury goes retrograde, it happens 3 times a year, and some of the main things that you guys have probably already heard about is that there can be snafus or hiccups especially in travel, in communication, in business contracts, and in all kinds of relationships, communication deals, like I already mentioned. So this is good to just recognize and understand and to not let these snafus get the best of you. Technology as well. So the main thing that we should be thinking about is, since this is taking place in the sign of Scorpio, a lot of the significations of this retrograde are going to be about past. Water signs, which Scorpio is one of them, is all about the past emotions and past events of one's life. This is how water signs navigate through the world, is usually by navigating through their feelings and through their knowledge of how things go in the past and how they can be comfortable based on situations where they were uncomfortable in the past. So in this time period, it will be common to think about old relationships, to think about old moods and old ways that you used to feel. There can be some nostalgia that creeps in. But this is also the time, since this is to narrow it down more to Scorpio of the water signs, that's very good for investigative work and within one's own life, for investigating how you've been living, what your concepts and ideas have been for the past 3 months while Mercury was direct, and for basically coming to a summary or a synthesis of how you've been thinking, what you've been manifesting, how you've been feeling, have you been comfortable, have you not been comfortable, and for getting to the bottom to a lot of the things that you've been investigating. So this can be a very positive time period. If we expect that some little snafus may happen, we don't try to do any big contracts. This is only 2.5 weeks. We don't try to do any big contracts. We don't try to take any huge steps in our career and our life. It's mostly a time of thinking. And I'm going to do a separate video on this topic, but it also coincides with the new moon, which is coming on October 16th, and we'll have the blue moon during Mercury retrograde. The blue moon will take place in early Taurus, I believe. And so, like I said, I'll make a separate video on that. But I'd also like to stress that the Mercury is it's at about 11 degrees Scorpio now. It's going to back up all the way into late Libra. So this is going to come back into contact, and this is the American election day as well. But when it goes into late Libra, it's going to come back into contact in squares to Saturn as well. And it's going to conjunct the sun. It's going to go combust with the sun. So I'd especially expect later in October and in early November, that's when the old partners or the old romantic relationships or the old friends or the old business partner may come back into your life. So that's something that you can expect, and you can work through it or go back to it, whatever you want to do. But usually it's just a time to go within. That's the biggest. Almost every astrological placement is best used by going within. There's certain times when you should go without and you should do some big moves and you should go meet people or hang out with your family, that kind of stuff. This holiday season won't be affected by the Mercury retrograde for the biggest part of it, because most people, it's usually the November, December, later in the months that they hang out with family and stuff. So that's good. We're getting it out of the way here. Halloween will be affected by this, if that's a big holiday for you guys. But yeah, so that's basically the gist of it. I'd also like to mention that if you have Mercury retrograde in your birth chart, that this can actually, your cycles can be the opposite of other people's. This could be your greatest time for investigative research and for beginning a new project or having new concepts be thought of if you naturally in your birth chart have a retrograde Mercury. And then the other 3 months can seem like the reverse, like when it's direct, can seem like that's when you have more snafus, or that's when things are harder to categorize, or that's when technology isn't working as well. So it's kind of odd, but This can, I think, for everybody, but also especially for the people who were natally born with a Mercury retrograde, this will be a great time to synthesize and to understand what you've been putting together for this whole year, as well as mostly for the past 3 months. Because for me, for example, these 3-month cycles where Mercury's direct are often times of widespread conceptualizations and thoughts, and many things happen in my life. And so I enjoy the retrograde periods being more of a hermit. I don't usually try to do a bunch of big things on Mercury retrograde. So I enjoy going back over and analyzing my past thoughts and trying to put them all together into a cohesive synthesis, so I can understand what I've been doing and then move forward with that new understanding. And yeah, I'd like to just give you guys a few examples, because where the snafus and communication issues and problems will show up is in whichever house this Mercury is in your chart. So that's going to be whichever house you have early Scorpio and late Libra in. And so basically you guys can always look up what the houses mean and just get a couple keywords on Google, but I could give you a couple. So if this happens in your 8th house, it's going to be around other people's assets. So any kind of shared assets that you use with other people. This could be parents or roommates or other people that you live with. This is where snafus could come up. Maybe your roommate doesn't get you your rent payment, his portion or her portion of the rent payment. They are late getting it to you, or they have some snafu with that. Maybe you are consistently thinking about old times that you've transformed, that you big life or death situations, or times that you ended friendships or had a new rebirth in a career, things like that. If this were in the 4th house, then you can notice that your technology in your home may stop working. You're more likely to have diverse conversations and maybe even arguments or odd communication, or not able to formulate your speech as well when you're inside your own home, that kind of thing. So you can just take that and move it and put it wherever your Mercury or wherever your Scorpio house is in your chart, wherever that Mercury is transiting. And it will go back into late Libra towards the end of the month as well. Then it'll go back into Scorpio by November 15th to 19th. It'll be back into Scorpio, moving faster again, and it'll head on to Sagittarius. But we're going to have a lot of these Scorpio Mercury themes. So you've probably already noticed that you're more likely to talk about death, or you're more likely to talk about the darker nature of things, or to talk with a more investigative tinge. The conversations may have gone set to sexual topics more often. All this is natural, so don't think that you have to hold any of that back. There's a reason for Scorpio energy. You're processing some of the darker, deeper, more behind the curtains parts of life. And I think that's it, guys. So I wish you the best in your Mercury retrograde period. This will last until November 3rd. I'm wishing you all the best. Bye-bye.